Hello, welcome to another edition of In Between the Pages with James Lott Jr. I'm James Lott Jr. of JLJ Media, and we like to talk to authors about their new books or old books or books again, but this is a new release, and I'm excited. It's called The Last Applicant. Look at this. I actually read the books. You guys know I read the books, so we can talk about it. It's a great book, and I would talk about the impetus for writing the book, some little questions about writing and the story and plot. But why I enjoyed this book so much, I think, has to do with the fact that she is an Emmy Award-winning writer from The Guiding Light, among other things. Help me welcome Rebecca. Say that 5 times fast. Welcome, Rebecca. Rebecca Hanover. Hi, Rebecca.
Hi, thank you so much, James. What an introduction. I'm so happy to be here chatting with you.
Well, first of all, congratulations to birth a book. Give it a push.
Yeah, that's what it feels like. Yep, you got it.
Right. Now I know you're birth in real life, but I'm just saying. But but this is like, you're still you're letting something out to the world.
Yes, yes. I have 3 kids, but I would say a book baby is still a big deal.
Yes, it is. Is this your first book? Right, it's your first book.
No, I actually have a young adults duology.
Okay.
Called The Similars, but this is my first adult venture.
What was your impetus for actually doing an adult novel? Actually, I mean, adult is it for adults, not adult.
For adults.
Let me
novel for adults. Yes.
Novel for adults. Let me rephrase that, kids. But yeah, novel for adults, please.
For adults. Yes. So I had a young adult series that came out in 2019 and 2020. And writing for young adults was something it was sort of a bucket list thing that I'd always wanted to, because, as you mentioned, I started off in TV writing for soaps for Guiding Light. But I had always wanted to write for kids or teens. That was a multi-year process because that was really my first book. And it took many years, and I put so much of myself into that. And I just love the YA genre so much. With that said, I got really into reading psychological thrillers, probably back around the time that my YA series came out. And honestly, it was less that I thought strategically, like, I want to switch to writing something for adults, and more that I just had this idea. And inspired by a lot of these books that I was loving, and they were such an escape for me. And I was having so much fun with just thinking about thrillers and how they were constructed. And when I got this idea, I just decided I would give it a try. And now I'm working on another adult domestic suspense or psychological thriller, and I'm really loving the space. So I'm feeling so excited I guess you could say, to have made this transition, although I still hope, to write more YA one day, because I love that as well.
So, first of all, it's a well-constructed book. And I said to myself, it's a well-constructed page turner. That's what I call it. Because you want to keep going. You want to keep going. And you want to see what the next thing is. And see what the next thing is.
That's the highest compliment you can.
No, but I'm dead serious. Because if it wasn't that, I wouldn't tell you that. I'm dead serious. And I said to myself, and we'll get to your other work later, the conversation. But I was like, I have a feeling, because you did work for television, you understand storyline beats. Some books, I'm like, oh my God, where are the beats? Or the beats are so off. It's like you're starting out strong, and also you kind of peter out a bit, and then you may catch up later. Like yours throughout, I felt like she's written for television, or she's written for movies, or she's written, like, I could tell she's written for something else, and it feels like I could see this as on television or a movie.
Well, thank you. It's true. I think, for better or worse, I am a plotter, like 1,000,000% a plotter. I'm not a pantser. I don't think I could ever be a pantser.
Yes.
And yes, that 100% comes from the, early 20s, getting into a writer's room, seeing how, beats were planned and story arcs. And I still refer back to Save the Cat. There is now Save the Cat writes a novel, but I actually just use my old beat up copy of Save the Cat, the original Save the Cat, because that's the thing, it's all the same. You use different muscles, of course, to write for TV and for novels, but the overarching story structure really does fit any story that you want to tell. And with that said, of course, there are places to innovate and do things differently, but that skeleton, that sort of like structural foundation I rely on that 100% with everything I write.
That makes sense. Since we're going in between the pages, before we get into actually story and plot, I want to go back to the YA thing because I wrote my first YA book.
Nice.
The Man at the End of the Street. It came out a month ago, and then people.
Oh my gosh!
Thank you.
Congratulations! I gotta go get it. That's amazing.
Thank you. And people were telling me, James, is another side of you we've never seen before. I really love this, and I had fun writing it. So I'm going to ask you, what is it about? For me, it was, I like teenage minds. I like tween minds. They're because they're developing and they're open, but they're also honest. So I just wanted, when you write a book, you kind of just write something honest and write something, whatever. So I wonder for you, what was that process for you writing the YA novels?
Yeah. Could not agree more. I think in an interesting way, I feel like the YA space, especially now, with so many different diverse stories being told, and it's also not even a genre really, it's a category, and there's so many genres within it, so there's just so much space to try things, right, that you can't even necessarily do in books for adults. And I think teens, like you said, they're the ones thinking about the world and identity and asking big questions, and so the books can ask those questions, and that's I totally agree. That's what has always appealed to me about it. And I'm forgetting the exact question now.
You're doing fine. It's just basically, writing for YA is very different because the minds are developing.
Yes. And so yes, thank you. So in some ways, there are limitations. You're writing for teens. There's also a responsibility, right, that you don't necessarily have with adult audiences, where you can be contributing to shaping the minds of teens, so it's important, like what you're putting on the page, which is also why it's so important that we have such a array of diverse stories, and stories where kids, what did they say at my kids' school, like where you hold the mirror up, it holds the mirror up to your own reflection and you see yourself represented. And I mean that in so many ways. It's so important. So that's what I've always loved about it. And also they're so escapist, the YA stories. when I started wanting to write for teens, it was back in the days of Twilight and Divergent and Hunger Games. And it was a lot of dystopia, which I know we're not, maybe we'll have its day again, hopefully. But what appealed to me so much about it was, seeing all these themes that interested me, like reflected in these worlds where we got to question them. And it's escapism that also makes you think, I guess. And that's what I love about YA.
Yeah, me too. I agree with that completely. All right, so now doing this first novel for adults. First, tell people what the basic story is. Let's do that first. Yes. How do you describe the story?
Yes. Okay. And I will say that I will try, make sure to not spoil it.
Yeah, I know.
I'll do my best.
You worked in television, so you know how this works.
I'll be coy enough to keep you guessing. But yes, it's basically about an admissions director, Audrey Singer, who is the admissions director of one of these. It's a fictional elite kindergarten through 12th grade private school in Manhattan, sort of in the epicenter of this kind of high stakes, intensive parenting, as I think they're calling it now.
Yeah, or something. Yeah.
So she has this, she's in this role as really like the decider of who's gonna get into this, who's gonna get the 30 spots at this coveted school. And then there is a mom, Sarah Price, who is desperate. She is desperate to get a spot for her child and will go to great lengths
Yes.
to do so.
Yeah, I'm chuckling. I've read the book. I'm chuckling. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so it's really, and you see from both of their perspectives, and it really just digs into these questions of, why would someone be so desperate to do this? Who who would this woman be who would go so far? Again, without giving anything away, and they really get enmeshed in each other's lives in a way that's hopefully creepy and
Oh
twisty
yeah.
and all the things.
Yes. It's very much. I was considering not giving away. I want everybody to run and get this book and read it. You can run to your keyboard and get it. You don't have to run to the store if you want to.
You don't have to run anywhere. Thank you.
Yeah, but yes, exactly. Once they say that, it was almost like there's status. There is outward looks. It is insecurities, projection. These are all words I get from reading from. So this is what I got from reading the story. Somebody I can tell you some of the characters. That's what it went to. I went towards Sarah that way. Power, misuse of power. I say collision. I'm being too. Collision. It's a part of it, which made me at times chuckle a little bit. You're like, is that really happening? And then being mortified. Was that part of the plan? Because there's a couple of scenes that I'm like, I'm chuckling kind of at this thing just happened, but then I'm like, no, I think it's really weird,
right,
and crazy.
Yes, it goes to some out there places, for sure. I will say, it felt, and I think I can say this without spoiling anything, but it felt like there was a version of this story. So when I first got the idea for it, I was meeting with a friend at Starbucks who wanted to ask me about preschool admissions, which I know, again, that's the thing about this topic. It's like you can laugh so hard because it's so, and yet especially in these big cities, like this is what people do. They write essays to get their kid a spot in a preschool. And I have 3 kids. Like I have been completely enmeshed in that myself, while also kind of taking a bird's eye view and sort of saying, what are we all doing? This is nuts. Is this even benefiting our kids? And just the privilege and the competition and like we're living in a world where like 8-year-olds I heard about an 8-year-old with a headset on, like a secret ear pod on, being coached in a soccer game, like secretly, so that she could get like tips from her dad or whatever. I mean, it's like, that's like the world we live in, but it's, we can all acknowledge it's kind of nuts.
Yeah.
So these were some things I wanted to explore with the book. But what I was going to say is I was meeting with this friend about preschool admission, and that's when I had the idea of what if an admissions director at one of these schools was stalked, and what would this parent be like who would do that? And what I was going to say is there was a very like, sort of straight line narrative that first came into my head, and I decided pretty quickly that I wanted the book to be more unexpected than that and to find ways to really surprise the reader. So then I can't say too much about it, but digging into the characters, I found some motivations that enabled me to take it kind of to the next level, if that makes sense. And so a lot of those, as you know, because you've read, a lot of the twists and turns really do come organically from the characters. But I hope they're surprising, but also in the end make sense. If that.
Oh, it does. Oh, it does. It does both. I mean, how would you can do this? How would you describe Audrey Singer?
Audrey is, on the surface, what she projects to and presents to the world is this confident, no nonsense mom who has it together, who is keeping up with the Kardashians or whatever.
Yeah, right. You're right.
I was going to say keeping up with the Joneses, but she is. She's got her shit together. She's in charge, and she's confident in her marriage, in her job, in her life. But of course, what fun would it be if we didn't see the cracks? So
Yes.
of course you're going to start to see the cracks in that,
Yeah.
and her own insecurities and her own fears. And you realize she's not, she's doing like this. She's racing to keep up, really, because she doesn't really feel that she fits in the way that she would like to.
Right.
She's hustling and scrambling, even though it's all under this. It's like the duck paddling under the water.
You don't see the little fin things go. You don't see the flip flops. You just see the gliding across the water. That's why I said I'm insecurity. And so you see some of my folks, my adjectives go to some of those people.
Yes.
Earlier. Yes.
Spot on. Yep.
Yeah. No, I saw that. And I think, well, it's funny because my kid, I have two daughters. I have 5 grandchildren, believe it or not. I know I'm past that point. So
amazing.
I know it's crazy. So my kids, I was raising them in the early 90s. So it was a little different then, but I know now with the grandkids, it was like, okay, so we already when they were like 2 years old, she was like, okay, there's this kindergarten class we get them into, and then there's this elementary school going into, and they were already at the high school already. They're already looking, my daughters are looking at ahead already.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
And I just felt like, okay, put you in this school, then we'll get to junior high, we get to high school, like what I did. Right. So it's like they're already looking ahead of the track.
Yep, the track. Absolutely. Yep.
I was like, oh, really? Like, it goes, if you go to the right preschool, pre-K, call it pre-K. Right pre-K will get you into the right K. Once you get to the right, I'm like, oh my God, it's crazy.
No, it is. And I mean, there's been all these articles. I did not coin any of them. Absolutely. Right. There's all these smart people out there talking about intensive parenting. There's even snowplow parenting, where you just push the obstacles away out of the way of the kid, which is, I know.
I love it.
So crazy. But and then you get these like books by college. I think I forget the name of it, but there was that book by a college dean or professor or someone a couple of years back saying that like they were getting college freshmen who couldn't tie their shoes. Or, I mean, I think that was a bit of an example.
I know what you mean. Yeah.
You know, How to Raise an Adult, I think it was called.
Yeah.
Sorry, I can't remember the author, but author's name. But she was like, they come and they can't do laundry and they can't, So it's something I'm pretty endlessly fascinated about. Obviously fascinated enough to write a whole book.
Clearly.
Backdrop.
Yeah. My daughter and I were talking this, actually yesterday, we were talking about how they got rid of the lockers in junior high or middle school and Sacramento. She was in Sacramento. But then they have lockers in high school. So like it was something really weird how it's like they're all the same school district. It was like, well, I don't know what's going on. They wouldn't have book bags with wheels on them. The books are so big. A lot. I think they heard kids' backs were breaking and like.
Oh my God!
I was like, oh, there's a whole world. I'm like, I'm not part of it anymore. I'm a grandfather. But I'm like, you guys have a lot going on. I'm like, I had no idea this was all going on. We were just having this talk. She was like, yeah, my son is like, my grandson was like, he's like, they're making him do the work more at school now and giving him less homework because they don't feel like they can do it at home and like all that. So it's a lot changing, but the parents are super, super like, and they have to be super involved. They're like super involved.
Yes, that is also the word, involved. Parents are so involved now. It's and a lot of kids have extracurriculars like back to back, till bedtime practically. I mean, so much less of like kids just running around. I mean, there are all those jokes on, on X, I guess it's called now.
Yeah, whatever
Twitter, whatever it is. That us, kids from the 70s and 80s were just like, Stranger Things, just like the parents didn't even know where they were. They were riding their bike without a helmet. Like who even saw them till time. So I think there's a happy medium there, of course. But I don't know. It'll be interesting to see if things turn at some point another way, or if we just keep on this path.
Well, I'm curious because the Gen Zers are thinking differently than the millennials.
Yes.
So I'll be curious to see when they start parenting
what they think. Yeah. There might eventually be like a backlash or something. Like, we don't want to raise our kid. We felt too scheduled, so we don't want to parent our kids the way, who knows, but it'll be interesting.
It will be interesting. What is your writing style in terms of, do you have a schedule? Do you just write when you feel like it? Do you set aside 2 hours a day? Like, what is your schedule? What's your style?
I would say it's it can be very up and down in terms of, for starters, if you're, and I know every author's in the same boat, but if you're working on edits of something, when you have the really specific deadlines, then that takes priority. And of course you want to meet those and work through those. For drafting a book, so I spend a really solid amount of time on my outline. As I mentioned, I'm a total plotter. So when I'm doing that, there can be a lot of like up and down in terms of putting it down, letting my mind kind of rest on it, coming back to it. And it's a lot less of the daily like word count kind of stuff and more of the big picture, trying to really work out this outline so that it's solid. Then once that's done, I do try to stick to a schedule of, a certain amount of words per day. I'm doing that right now. And it takes that discipline part of you that you just have to buckle down. And for me, the hardest part is I've got 3 kids and life is crazy and we're all busy. So it's never that I don't want to be writing. It's that there's always looming things that I need to take care of, and finding the willpower to say, you know what, those things can wait while I do XYZ. That's the hardest thing for me. But I'm working on it.
It makes sense. No, here's the thing. So like a lot of us who now work from home, I used to be in a studio. The studio's all closed. And then right now, of course, there's strikes happening. People see I'm wearing a shirt. There's strikes happening. So there's a lot. We both support WGA, of course. They got their thing, but SAG-AFTRA is still.
Yep,
I supported IATSE when they went through there. It's GGA, all this stuff. I support everybody. But a lot of us are at home now. So it's like, well, I shouldn't be doing that laundry right now. I should be cleaning that kitchen. No, it's like, seriously, it's on your brain.
Yes.
While you're trying to do this, which you love, which is the writing process, or whatever it is, you're creating, any kind of creative thing.
Yep.
Like, well, then, like you said, you have kids. You'll be home from school soon, and it's going to happen over here. And so it's like, I know it must be. It's just for you to finish a book. Again, congratulations. Like that's just it's life. Life's just that you have a husband or a partner or this or that, or take care of your mom, like whatever is going on. It's like you have all of that plus. Because writing is something different. I think you might agree with this. Like writing is one of the few things where you have to pay attention, you have to be present, you have to write. It's not like recording a song real quick or recording. There's other things for that too, but it's like this is something that's very intimate. It's very much you've got to pay attention while you're doing it.
Yep. And the creative headspace, that deep work or whatever. I know there's all these folks with different words for it, being in the zone.
Yes.
There are times where you don't have to be. There are times, when you can get it done, even if you're not in that zone. But for certain parts of a book, you've got to be able to carve out that deep work time, and not be, I think it's just, not be plagued by the pile of laundry. It's almost like you should shut the door so you can't see it and then try to put it out of your head. But you're right. Working from home, it's a distraction. There's distractions for everyone working from home, and it's hard to let those things go. But that's what I'm work in progress.
Yeah, you got to do that. So okay. Now I'm going to talk a little bit about your other career you did, which was writing and guiding my favorite series, Guiding Light. Guiding Light, folks, as some of you may or may not know, was the longest running television program while I was on the air, over 70-some years, plus from radio, over like 80 years. It was on forever. Went off the air, sadly, back in the 2000s, and I've worked with so many people from Guiding Light. There are a lot of them are sprinkled out there in the world. You have no idea.
We're all over the place.
They're everywhere. They're working. Some of them are working. They're on stage. They're doing I just said hi to Robert Newman the other day. So he's he's doing stage work. He was on Young and the Restless recently. It's people. They're out there everywhere.
It's a family, and there's so many folks doing so many cool things. That's awesome. I love Rob. That's great.
Yeah, he's great. And then my buddy Alan Locker. He just celebrated his birthday as we're recording this, and I love him. And his show, The Locker Room, is a very big success. I'm on it a couple of times. We're friends, and so it's kind of fun that it's just I love talking to people who worked in soaps because we're all part of the same kind of family. And one of the things I want to ask you, I don't think I've ever asked. I've interviewed soap writers before. I think I've ever asked this to a soap writer. So I'm going to ask you, Rebecca. I never asked
Okay,
anybody
go
else.
for it.
Did you watch your work?
Oh,
So
yes.
you wrote it, and then it airs. You know, people understand they're writing in advance, and it airs 5 or 6 weeks later,
Yep.
or 7 weeks, whatever.
Yep.
So, did you watch your work?
Yes, 100%. I try to watch every episode,
Okay.
which is a lot because
it is a lot.
5 days a week. I mean, I know, you know. Yes, and it's been a while, so I don't. I guess what I was going to say, I don't remember necessarily singling out. In a weird way, it all felt like everyone's work. So you would watch the show just because you want to see. I mean, it's so illuminating to see how the stories are playing out, how the actor, you know, how certain stories are working, how certain lines are coming together. I remember when there was like a show that I'd written that was a super like milestone one, you know, thinking like giving it extra attention, I guess I was going to say, but I didn't necessarily sit there waiting to hear how a specific line that I wrote landed, but I wanted to see how it all worked, if that makes sense.
It does. You're kind of like, well, it was more like I want to see how my writing fit into the larger place.
Yes, that all of the above. We would all, I think most all of us tried to watch. You know, I'm sure there were days I missed just because there were so many hours, but we all really tried to watch and keep up.
Now, were you guys weren't in an actual writer's room, right? You guys all wrote separately and came together?
We all wrote separately, but we had a once a week writer's room in New York. So we were in New York. That's where where Guiding Light was filmed. And we had a one really long day basically where we would be at the CBS building at the studio, kind of, you know, hashing out all the different episodes for that, you know, 5 episodes at a time, basically. And it was great because you felt that connection to the other writers and you were, you know, in person. There were always a few people on the phone because this was back in the days of like, we didn't do it Zoom, but it was like
no Zoom.
One of those like conference phones that looks like a writer that was like in the middle of the table.
Yes, I remember those.
Yeah. Then you'd hear the LA writers chiming in. We always had like a few LA writers, but I mean, I loved being in that room because, you know, it was like a family and we're all working, you know, on this common goal together. But we were very efficient, as you can imagine. We had so much ground to cover. So it was not, I'm sure, you know, primetime and streaming writers' rooms can be, I mean this like in the best way. I'm sure they can be a lot of fun. You know, you hear about a lot of like joking and different things happening. And there was some of that, but we did have to kind of be efficient because we had so much to write. We had so many hours of television.
Yes.
To get through.
People don't realize that.
Yeah. But then we'd go off on our separate ways and work.
If you don't realize, I know nowadays, I don't know what it was for you back then, but I know nowadays some shows are filming up to 8 episodes a week. They're filming them now because they have lots of dark times now. They take off for budget reasons. They like, okay, we're taking 3 weeks off here, 2 weeks off here.
Right. Gosh.
So, I talked to when I was able to talk to the actors. I'll get them again one day. They would tell us how the pages they were learning and like, doing up to 7 or 8 episodes a week.
Yeah, it's so impressive what the actors can do. I mean, it was always funny because when a non-soap actor would come do like a little cameo, they would have to do a bunch of takes often. I'm sure not their fault. It's just I'm just complimenting the daytime actors because they were so incredible, you know, getting a scene right like the first time, you know, because they were just so good at they knew their stuff, you know, they really talented.
Okay, so you were there during the whole controversial yet successful Cousins falling in love.
Yes.
And it was so weird because I watched it, Tammy and Jonathan. I watched, and then there was Lizzie also off to the side of that whole storyline. which and I say I loved that Lizzie, Emmy Ryland. I love that Emmy Ryland. I love that
Yes.
whole. All three of them.
So
Stephanie, Tom, they were all just
fantastic, fantastic.
and then add in Ron Raines as Alan, add in
Yep.
my girl Chris Chappelle, add
Yep.
you had a great cast. But I want to talk about the cousins thing
Yep.
because was that because I was trying to tell people sometimes chemistry is chemistry. Sometimes lightning just in a bottle comes together. It's like chemistry, writing, the actors, the time period. I mean, for every Luke and Laura, for every John and Marlene on Days, for
Yep.
every
Yep.
this coupling, these two actors were just it was combustible. I mean, someone who was there writing, I want to know, am I correct on all that? I mean, guys, I guess as a viewer, I saw it, but as a writer, you guys
yeah. I mean, oh gosh. So all of this was Dave Kreisman and Donna Swajewski, who were the head writers and are amazing humans, and also just so brilliant. So this was all their brainchild. And I don't remember, and I wasn't privy to, knowing sort of what the big plan was, but I feel like they had this genius idea. And then to your point, it just took off. Like clearly the audience was like, yes, so then we just probably dug in even more, which was amazing, but you do, as you said, the shows air, I don't know, 6 weeks, 2 months,
5.5
filming. So, you're writing ahead of that.
Right.
So you do get a chance to see on screen how it's going, and you do get a chance to hear from viewers. So you can, with any specific story, you can pivot down the line. If you see something or you hear from viewers and there's something you want to change about it, you can pivot down the line. But I think in this case, everyone was like, more, this is, we love these two, So I'm sure that was, I think we were all so thrilled that was the reaction. And so then we could really, make them a huge part of the show. And it was such a memorable, it was also just so fun. So fun.
I'm sure. I mean, like it's just in these great actors who could act it out. It was really good.
Yeah. I mean, Tom Pelphrey, amazing.
He get walk on water for me, so it doesn't matter. Because the other part of that time period was him and Reva.
Yes, and they were they were combustible, in a different way, but in a non-romantic way, but they were just such formidable, like sparring partner. They were incredible.
It was, it's, and when he won those Emmys, where you could tell that Kim Zimmer was so proud of him, and he seemed so humbled, but the way he did, he had something. It was just something. It was like, because I remember the storyline. They thought Sandy was her son. I remember there was a whole other story.
Yeah. Oh, Sandy. God, I forgot.
Sandy. Yeah.
You remember better than I do.
I do. And he's married to my girl in real life. Franz, who played Amber on Bold and Beautiful. They're still married. And they have kids and stuff. A beautiful family. But I remember he came on first, and he was friends with Shane. It was a whole thing.
Yep.
So I remember that. But then when Tom came on as Jonathan, and just the abuse he had at his own, and I think it wasn't not Edmund, it was what's his name's hands or whatever. It was such beautiful, brilliant work, but it comes from the writing, right? And so I just want to say to you, so I want you to kind of talk about that it ain't on a page, ain't on a stage, right? So it's like it comes to the writing. So if you're getting the outlines and breakdowns, from the head writers, from network, whatever, so they say, okay, Rebecca, here's your piece.
Right.
And you just go from there.
Yeah. So I actually was, I got to write breakdown. So we had, that's right. So we had breakdown and script writers. And the breakdown writers were in that writer's room that I was describing. And I actually started off writing breakdowns and doing the story, which is again why, it was a dream job, and I was
I'm sure, I know,
I was so lucky to get to do that job. And that really feeds into why I'm now such a plotter, because I really started not even just from the scripts, but I started from that storytelling. Because when you write breakdowns, that's what you're doing. You're writing a detailed outline, essentially, or beat sheet or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
And so we would, yes. So the head writers would have a long-term story doc that we kind of all knew the direction of where things were headed. And they would share, we would get more detail each week about, the 5 episodes for this week are going to start at A and end at Z, and here's all the stories in between. And then we would flesh them out in that writers meeting, and then go home to write our breakdown. And then once we got edits back and from the head writer and kind of finalized it, it would get passed on to the script writer.
Okay.
I did end up writing scripts ultimately because with budget cuts and things, they actually ended up having us do both. Like you would sort of do the breakdown and then skip right to the script, to try to get it done more efficiently. This was, just sadly towards the end when things were, it was all budget concerns.
Elliot Wheeler tried her best.
God, I know.
I really know she gets a lot of mixed reaction. I feel like with the handheld cameras and being in Brooklyn, I thought she was trying her best to save the show.
Oh, 1,000,000%. Ellen's amazing, and she was so innovative about it. I mean, that's what had to be done, and we got those months or year or whatever it was of story that we wouldn't have gotten to do otherwise. So no, she was a pioneer, and she was, to your point, just did everything she could think of.
Good. And she was an Emmy Award-winning actress. So
yes, she knew. Yeah, they were all, she and Dave, and I mean they were all amazing. So
how did you get the job?
Wait, say that again.
How did you get the job?
Oh, how did I get the job? I was an intern. I lived in New York, moved to New York after college. I did a bunch of editing, like actual, editing of essays and different things to pay my rent. And it's so long ago. I haven't thought about this. But my resume got passed on to the Guiding Light, but the Procter and Gamble folks. And they said, oh, there's an internship. I know you're looking for a job, but would you be interested? And I mean, I was sold from the first day and just did everything I could to try to make money outside of that so that I could keep doing
I get it. I get it. Yeah.
I was like, this is a dream. I want to stay, if I can stay in this world somehow get a job here, I'll be thrilled. So then I was an intern. So do you also know Danielle Page?
Yes.
Wonderful friend as well. And so she was the writer's assistant. I was her intern, her and Brett Stannard. I don't know if you're friendly with him also, but and then when Danielle became a writer on the show, a writer's assistant job opened. And I, again, so fortunate to get that opportunity. And so, I was worked assisting the writers for a long time and just tried to soak it all in and learn from them. And then ultimately, the head writers gave me a chance to write, and kind of all went from there. But I was all in. I mean, I couldn't believe that there were jobs that existed creating like that, like on this set with all these amazing folks creating story. It was eye-opening, and I was like, I hope I can stay here and, find a way to.
Folks don't realize that back then, half the soaps were in New York. Because the ABC over on West 66, I'm in that building, had Wired to Live and All My Children. Yep. So General Hospital was out in California. A few were out in the rest, but they were out in California. But the rest were in New York.
Yeah.
That's World Turns, all of them. They were all in New York. Yep. So it's funny you fell into one of them. One of the two big ones was Procter & Gamble and, of course, ABC. But you fell into one of them. So that makes sense. Yep. In your opinion, just opinion, a lot of the actors in New York were also stage.
Yep.
Do you think that helped them in terms of when you did your writing from them absorbing scripts?
Oh, yes. I mean, that's completely why they were so skilled. I mean, and not that I'm sure the soap actors in LA, who
Oh no,
you,
we're not. Yeah, I'm not. Yeah, what type of? I'm
but
just saying
also,
that. But
but
in New York,
yes,
it's very well
yes.
known. You do theater a lot of times at the same time.
Oh yeah. I mean, because so I was a theater major. I'm
Oh, there you
started
go.
off as a theater. I mean, I'm still a total theater geek. Love it so much. And I mean, the theater is just,
And I love it.
you can do theater, you can do anything. So yes, that 1,000,000%. I think that kind of training was invaluable. And it really what you realize when you work behind the scenes is like how time is money. Like if we can do this in fewer takes, we're gonna get on to the next scene. We're gonna get people out of here on time so they can get home to their families, or the crew, the cast, everybody. So they were just, that professionalism, that level of professionalism was huge and appreciated by everybody.
It makes sense. Because the actors know, okay, we gotta get this done. When you're
Yep.
on the stage, it's 8 shows
Yeah.
a week. We gotta get this done. We
Yeah.
gotta get it done. And yeah, no, I get
Yeah.
that. Makes sense.
Yeah.
But no, I bring up. No, I love my LA actors, of course. I'm from LA.
Yeah, of course. They're amazing too.
Yeah, but I know that's very well known back then. A lot of them would do on their times off, or even at nights or weekends, would do
Yep.
stage gigs.
Yeah.
So it's just and folks, when you go to New York, it's very, very stage heavy. You just can't, you feel it. It's everywhere. And my mother's a New Yorker, so I'm part New Yorker myself, kind of, and I lived there for a little bit. So it's just part of the fabric.
Part of the DNA of it. Yeah. I mean, every actor there is doing all the things. Like they've probably been on a soap. Back in the day at least,
Yeah.
been on a soap, been in a stage play, and they're just so, it's that professionalism. It's like, it's so clear.
Yeah, I just booked tickets to see MJ the musical. It's coming to California finally. So I'm finally gonna see that.
Fun.
So it's coming up. But I heard the latest one to see is a play called The Shark is Broken.
Oh,
It's
I
about
don't even know this.
the making of Jaws.
Oh,
And the
wow.
son of the writer of Jaws wrote the play and stars as his father.
Okay, that's super cool.
On Broadway, Shark is
Okay.
Broken.
All right, I'm gonna go Google that.
Yeah, go Google it. It's very
That's
fun.
amazing.
My mother loves Jaws. So I was like, when it comes to LA, if it comes to LA, well, I'll take you I'll take you to see it. But it's one of her favorite movies of all time. And she always says the Bad Hat Harry and all stuff. She always says these phrases. But it's the son of the writer, and Richard Dreyfuss, who I know is a family friend actually, was there at the premiere a couple nights ago, was there. So it's like it's this weird. But I'm saying theater to me, I love theater.
I love theater so much. I just yesterday saw some headline about Idina Menzel and Taye Diggs. I don't even know why it wasn't even really like anything happening with them. It just was that there was, on People or something. So yes. I clicked, and then I started going to the wormhole of Rent and just remembering how good that show was. And
yes.
Anyway, I am with you. But and that there's a show with, is it Anthony Rapp, who now actually has a show too, which I didn't even realize. But anyway.
Yeah, because Broadway, it's off Broadway, it's off Broadway, it's all kinds of stuff there. You go to West Village, wherever East Village, love stuff.
It.
So I love it. So I just wanted to mention that. I love theater and stuff. So you have a book. You have a book for adults called The Last Applicant. And I want to thank you, Rebecca, for coming on the show and hanging out with me.
Thank you. This was so much fun. It's really wonderful to connect, and I so appreciate your thoughts about the book, and you see me. I feel like you see what I was trying to do with it. So without getting too far into it, I can tell that you hopefully got what I was trying to do with it. So
I did. I totally did. And I say, folks, you can get it on Amazon, of course. You can go to bookstores like Barnes and Noble; they're still around. And look, maybe local bookstores. I try to support local bookstores too. I'm carrying it, so just check out. I mean, just wherever you feel like you want to buy a book, buy this book. You will not be sorry. Support the art. Support reading. Reading is good. Support reading. We like escapism, and I'm telling you, this book will take you places. You'll be like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. It's wonderful. You'll love it. It's a page turner. Like I said, it's a page turner. Rebecca, if they want to find you or find any of your other works and stuff, where can they find you?
Yes. Yes. So Instagram is kind of the go-to. I find I can only really focus on one place. It's just so much work with, plus X. I mean, you can find me on X, but Instagram at Rebecca Hanover. super easy. I'm on there and I see my DMs. I know it's the social media thing is, but yes, Instagram's the place I kind of focus on connecting with readers. So, and announcing things too. So
go there. I'll put it in the description below. You guys
okay.
go.
Perfect. Okay.
And you can find me. We're all James Lott Jr.'s is sold at James Lott Jr. and all social media platforms, JLJ Media on all social media platforms. I'm everywhere you want to be. In Between the Pages is on Facebook. Buy books, read books, whether they're Kindle or audio or actual, in your hands. Support them, get them, support them. Reading is good. I think, today's world's a little crazy right now. Sometimes you need a little bit of escapism, and a good book will do it for you every time. I'll see you next time.